Hi college football fans, Matt Osborne here with Fifth Down Football. And I'm here today to preview the 2011 Big Ten Legends Division. As always, we're going to go in our projected order of finish, so we're going to start things off with a team that we're projecting to win the division this year, and that's the Michigan State Spartans. Now, if you recall, Michigan State had a very successful season last year. They went 11-1 in the regular season and were co-Big Ten champions. Now, one of the main reasons that Michigan State was able to have so much success last year was that they played a very easy schedule. Now, they're not going to have the same fortune this year. The schedule is much tougher, but they are more talented than they were a year ago, in my opinion. Things are going to start on offense. They have a solid trio of offensive skill players: quarterback Kirk Cousins, running back Edwin Baker, and wide receiver B.J. Cunningham. They're going to cause a lot of problems for opposing defenses. By that trio right there, there's a lot of athleticism and experience in the group. On the offensive line, they do lose 3 starters, but the good news is they brought in a lot of quality offensive line recruits who are more athletic than the guys they've had there in the past, so the coaching staff is very hopeful that the young offensive linemen can come in and maybe even be more productive than the lines that the Spartans have had in the past. On defense, the Spartans are hoping to get good production out of their defensive line, starting with defensive tackle Jarrell Worthy. Worthy had 8 tackles for losses and 4 sacks last year, and he is a favorite to be an all-conference selection this year. The coaches are also hoping that defensive end William Golston can kind of live up to the potential that he brought with them to East Lansing. It can cause pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. At linebacker, the Spartans will have to replace their 2 leading tacklers from last year, Eric Gordon and Greg Jones, who combined to make 198 tackles last year. But they do have a lot of athleticism at the position. And in the defensive backfield, they lose cornerback Chris L. Rucker to the NFL. But all the signs out of spring camp are saying that Johnny Adams has been a shutdown player at corner. I've even heard quotes from the safeties saying that they don't even pay attention to his side of the field. They know that he has things shut down, so he should step in and take Rutgers' place. Michigan State is a team that is loaded with talent. I don't know how the schedule is going to play out, but they are a team that should win this division this year. Now, the second team in the division is actually new to the conference, and I actually would have probably put them ahead of Michigan State if their schedule wasn't even tougher than the Spartans, and that's the Nebraska Cornhuskers. The Cornhuskers are welcome to the conference with cross-divisional matchups against the top 3 teams from the Leaders Division, and that's Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State, and that's on top of all the Legends games that they're going to have to play. Coming into the new conference, Bo Pelini has made a switch at offensive coordinator, bringing in Tim Beck. Now, if you watched the Cornhuskers last year, you probably got used to seeing a lot of running, especially from quarterback Taylor Martinez. Tim Beck is going to try to switch things up a little bit. He's bringing a very up-tempo style that relies on the quarterback to make quick decisions. So Taylor Martinez, we all saw what he could do last year when healthy. He ran rampant over opposing defenses before he had a series of injuries that kind of limited his production later in the year. So one of the things that Beck's going to do is kind of put the ball in Martinez's hands, let him make decisions, also throw the ball a little more to kind of alleviate some of the wear and tear on Martinez. Martinez also has a very good running back to hand the ball to Rex Burkhead, who's stepping in for Roy Halou Jr. So those are a solid 1-2 combination in the backfield. The Cornhuskers do need some help at receiver. Receiver was one of the big reasons they lost their game to Texas last year. They struggled getting open and struggled even more catching the ball. And they do lose 3 offensive line starters. And Beck's hoping to play a lot of offensive linemen in the new up-tempo system, so they do have to find some replacements there. But they should be solid, as always. And on defense, the Black Shirts are back. They return 7 starters, and they really have an all-American quality player at each position. On the defensive line, Jared Crick is hoping to remind Nebraska fans of Ndamukong Suh. Crick was a second-team All-American selection last year and kind of surprised people by coming back to campus for his senior year. He was also joined on that second-team All-American list by outside linebacker Levante David, who's somewhat undersized for the linebacker position, but that means that he brings a lot of speed and athleticism and good instincts for linebacker. He'll make a lot of tackles this year. In the secondary, a lot of people are worried about the departure of Prince Amukamara, the star cornerback, but might not know about the other star cornerback that Nebraska has, and that's Alfonso Denard. Got overshadowed by Amukamara last year, but look for Denard to really kind of step up and be the shutdown corner that we're used to seeing in Nebraska's defense. If it wasn't for the schedule, I would have them winning this division, but it's very tough, very talented football team. The third team in the list is the Iowa Hawkeyes, and they're kind of the opposite of the first two teams we've had thus far. They lose a lot of starters, lose 15 starters from last year's team, but they have a pretty easy schedule. Their only real tough team that they have to play from the leaders division is Penn State, so not too rough there. They also have a solid foundation in the running game. Offensive line was a little bit of a struggle last year, but they have 3 starters back. They look really good in the spring, led by Kirk Ferentz's son, James, at center. And Marcus Coker stepped up and really put on a show in Iowa's bowl win over Missouri last year, rushing for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's back, ready for his sophomore season, so they should have a good rushing attack there. James Vandenberg is stepping in at quarterback for Ricky Stanzi. Vandenberg actually has a little bit of experience. He stepped in for an injured Stanzi at the end of the 2009 season and came close to leading the Hawkeyes to a Big Ten championship. The coaches have raved about his performance on the field and off the field as a leader as well. On defense, 3 of the 4 defensive line starters are gone. All 3 of them were taken in the NFL draft, so they will have to find some new production there. But there's 2 quality players in the back 7 of the defense. Linebacker James Morris, who was a freshman All-American last year after being inserted into the starting lineup halfway through the season, and safety Tyler Sash, who should be an all-conference selection again this year. So if they can find some key players up front, look for Iowa to have a big season. Kirk Ferentz has built a program there. They're just going to plug people in. They have an easy schedule. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see them challenge for the Legends Division title come into the season. All right, the 4th team in the standings, we have the Northwestern Wildcats. The Wildcats returned 16 starters from a year ago, led by quarterback Dan Persa, who's currently rehabbing from a ruptured Achilles tendon. Persa is a guy who, if healthy, should easily throw for over 3,000 yards with the receivers he has coming back, and could be actually a Heisman dark horse nationally. A lot of people don't know about him. Northwestern has struggled in the rushing game recently, but they're looking to pick things up this year. The running game really got a chance to be a point of emphasis this spring with Persa out still doing his rehabilitation. So the coaches have liked what they've seen out of the rushing game. On defense, Vince Brown led the Wildcats with 7 sacks last year. He's a guy who you could look forward to make an all-conference team. They do lose 2 of their starting linebackers, but they are more athletic at the position they have been in the past, so that should help them because they have been a little slow on defense in previous years, which has hurt them when trying to stop opposing offenses. And the schedule for them is also very favorable. Just like Iowa, they only have to play Penn State from the Leaders Division, and they get that game at home, so a very favorable schedule for Northwestern. All right. Our 5th team in the standings is the Michigan Wolverines. The Wolverines fired Rich Rodriguez this offseason, brought in Brady Hope from San Diego State. He's bringing a new philosophy to Michigan, and I really love what he's doing, making them tougher. Hired Greg Madison to try to fix the defense. They're really working hard on the defensive line, which is where Madison and Hope both have their background in. So they've done a couple of things to shake it up already. Mike Martin was the 2nd-team all-conference pick at defensive line last year, so he's moving down to defensive tackle. He's going to plug things up. They're moving Ryan Van Bergen out to his more natural defensive end position, so they're looking to get more of a rush on opposing quarterbacks, so that should work out well for them. They return 17 starters overall, so their defense, which was a major weakness for them last year, should be much better. The thing that really concerns me right now is how the offense is going to transition to a more traditional style. We all saw what Denard Robinson was able to do with his feet last year, and you can expect Michigan to keep in some aspects of the quarterback running game but they're trying to go to a more traditional offense, rely more on his arm, and things did not go very well this spring in terms of offense. And he also just lost one of his key receivers and wide receiver Darryl Stoneham, who was just suspended indefinitely by the coach. So I think it actually might be a flip-flop of last year where the defense improves a lot and the offense has a little bit of a falling off. You have to remember kind of when Rich Rodriguez came in, how he had to recruit a different type of player. Now Brady Hoke is getting Rich Rodriguez's players who were recruited to be faster, better athletes, not as strong, where Brady Hoke is trying to play a more physical brand of football. So I just don't think the Wolverines will be ready to compete just yet. And the last place team in our division is Minnesota. Minnesota is also a team that's bringing in a new coach, Jerry Kill, and I really love what he's doing so far. He came in, he's not trying to do any of this coach speak type thing. He realizes that Minnesota is not ready to compete right now. He realizes they need better athletes, but he says they're going to come out there and try to get better, which shouldn't be hard to do. They were 89th in total offense last year in the country and 98th in total defense. So improvement should be expected on both sides of the ball. One thing really to keep an eye out for that could be interesting is their quarterback Marquise Gray. Now, Gray was actually second leading receiver on the team last year, and they're moving him to quarterback, which is where he was originally recruited. So I'm kind of curious to see how that will play out, but there's just not enough talent and athleticism for the Gophers to compete yet at this level. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in and watching us. Be sure to check us out, like always, www.fifthdownfootball.com, and we'll be back with our preview of the Leaders Division soon.